It's 6 p.m. time for the news bulletin on Channel 2. I am Basma Taha, and starting off with the main headlines of the day. President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi receives congratulatory cables from Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouli on the occasion of Eid al-Adha. At least 27 Palestinians killed and dozens wounded by Israeli occupation fire in southern Gaza Strip. And Moscow says Iran has right to a peaceful nuclear program. Welcome back. The news in full. President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi received today congratulatory cables from Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouli, who congratulated the president on the occasion of Eid al-Adha, wishing Egypt, an Arab and Islamic nation, peace, prosperity and progress. In his cable of congratulation, Madbouli promised President al-Sisi to exert more effort in the coming period to continue path of integrated development nationwide and achieve people aspirations. Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouli also sent cables of congratulations to Grand Imam of Al-Azhar, Ahmad Al-Taib, on Eid al-Adha occasion. In his cable, Prime Minister Madbouli wished Grand Imam of Al-Azhar all health and Arab and Islamic nations, peace and prosperity. President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi received congratulatory cables from top state officials on the occasion marking Eid al-Adha or the Feast of Sacrifice today. General Abdelmajid Saqr, the General Commander of the Armed Forces and Minister of Defense and Military Production, sent cables of congratulations in which he wished Egypt and the Arab and Islamic nation peace, security and stability. Saqr also affirmed the armed forces and the sacrifices of its men will remain strong, protecting Egypt's national security, and is a strong shield capable of repelling aggression and preserving the nation's security, safety and dignity. Minister of Foreign Affairs, Migration and Egyptian Expatriates Badr Abdulati assured Egypt's keenness to deepen bilateral relations with Benin Republic and boost bilateral cooperation in various fields. This came in press conference with his Benin counterpart, Olusegun Agege, where Foreign Minister Abdulati pointed out that a number of files were discussed. On top was Gaza, Libya, Sudan, as well as some issues of mutual concern and means of establishing security and peace in the region, especially the African Horn. Minister of Foreign Affairs, Migration and Egyptian Expatriates Badr Abdulati received an Indian high-ranking parliamentary delegation. Abdulati stressed the significance of enhancing bilateral ties and activate the cooperation treaty between the two states. Foreign Minister Abdulati affirmed Egypt's stance in reaching a truce between Egypt and Pakistan to achieve stability and security in South Asia region, and Abdulati also hailed the ceasefire agreement between the two countries, pointing to the significance of reaching settlements through diplomatic path. More than 2 million Muslim pilgrims poured into the holy city of Mecca ahead of the annual Hajj, with authorities vowing to hold a safe pilgrimage. Temperatures were forecast to exceed 40 degrees Celsius this week as one of the world's largest annual religious gatherings officially commences on Thursday. The Hajj, one of the 5 pillars of Islam, must be performed at least once by all Muslims with the means. Authorities have mobilized more than 40 government agencies and 250,000 officials, doubling their efforts to mitigate heat-released risks. Saudi Arabia Hajj Minister Tawfiq al-Rabi'a said shaded areas have been expanded by 50,000 square meters. 1,000 more medics will be on standby and more than 400 cooling units will be deployed for the duration of Hajj. As he met with the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Migration and Egyptian expatriates Badr Abdulati, Prime Minister Dr. Mustafa Madbouli affirmed that under the leadership of President Sisi, Egypt gives priority to reach an immediate ceasefire in Gaza Strip. Madbouli stressed the significance which the Foreign Ministry gives to prepare for the conference of reconstruction of Gaza after reaching a ceasefire. Madbouli focused during his meeting with Foreign Minister Abdulati on the Egyptian vision of reconstructing Gaza without the displacement of Palestinians. In the third day of bloodshed, at least 27 Palestinians were killed and dozens wounded by Israeli occupation fire near a food distribution site in the southern Gaza Strip on Tuesday. This came as the Hamas resistance movement called on the international community to take immediate action to end the U.S.-Israeli aid distribution mechanism, which is also criticized by the UN for fomenting forced relocation of Palestinians and more violence. Details in the following reports.
Israeli occupation forces opened fire in the Gaza Strip as people headed towards an aid distribution site a kilometer away, killing at least 3 and wounding dozens. Health officials and witnesses said the shooting occurred at the same location where Israeli forces fired a day earlier on crowds heading towards the aid hub in southern Gaza run by the Israeli and U.S.-backed Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. On Sunday, at least 31 people were killed and over 170 wounded by Israeli fire near the aid site in Rafah in southern Gaza, according to local health officials, aid groups, and several eyewitnesses. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres called for an independent investigation into the incident. Palestinians must pass close by Israeli forces and cross military lines to reach the GHF hubs, in contrast to the UN aid network, which delivers aid to where Palestinians are located. The United Nations and major aid groups have rejected the Foundation's new system for aid distribution. They say it violates humanitarian principles and cannot meet mounting needs in a territory of roughly 2 million people, where experts have warned of famine because of a 3-month Israeli blockade on aid. In a separate incident Monday, an Israeli strike on a residential building in northern Gaza killed 14 people. According to health officials, the Shifa and Al Ahli hospitals confirmed the toll from the strike in the Jabalia refugee camp, saying 5 women and 7 children were among those killed.
The United Nations Human Rights Office said on Tuesday that the woeful impediment of access to food and relief for civilians in Gaza may constitute a war crime, describing attacks on civilians trying to access food aid as unconscionable. The spokesperson for the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights told reporters in Geneva that for a third day running, people were killed around an aid distribution site run by the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. Moscow said Tuesday that Iran had the right to be a peaceful nuclear program a day after U.S. President Donald Trump said he wanted to rule out any enrichment of uranium by Tehran in a new nuclear pact. Uranium enrichment has been a key point of contention in 5 rounds of talks since April to ink a new accord that would replace the deal abandoned by U.S. President Donald Trump during his first term in 2018. Ukraine said today it had detonated a bomb near the Crimea bridge, which links the annexed peninsula to Russia and has been widely targeted since Russia invaded in 2022. Kiev SBU Secret Service said it had conducted a new unique special operation and hit the Crimea bridge for the third time, this time underwater. Minister of Planning and Economic Development, Dr. Ranjan Mashad, met with a delegation from Goldman Sachs International to review developments in the Egyptian economy and the government efforts to empower the private sector and increase investments. During the meeting, Al-Mashad stressed that maintaining macroeconomic stability is a priority through ongoing reforms. She added that work is underway to transform the Egyptian economic model to achieve investment and production-driven growth. So she also touched on the state measures to empower the private sector and pave the way for local and foreign investments. European shares rebounded today amid broader gains, while investors continue to monitor any developments on the U.S. trade policy front. The pan-European Stoxx 600 index was up 0.2% after kicking off June on a slightly lower note. Nasdaq futures and S&P 500 futures were down more than 0.3% each, and in Europe, Euro Stoxx 50 future and FTSE futures were up just 0.1%. Dear viewers, by that we come to the end of our news bulletin. Thanks for watching. That was Basma Taha signing off.